Hi everyone, welcome to the next session. I am chuffed to be here with Alex Wade, Head of Media and Brand Communications at Kraft Heinz. And in this session we'll hear about how Kraft Heinz has built an in-house digital and social agency, The Kitchen, and how that digital and social agency complements the media function to deliver business outcomes, and we'll hear about all the learnings along the way. So welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much, pleased to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about your role at Kraft Heinz, a bit about your background and where you've come from, where you've been?
Absolutely. Well, firstly, I promise this isn't coordinated, this outfit choice. It was a happy coincidence both for I wearing the identical thing.
Yeah, we're waiting for the techno music to come on to introduce us, but nothing. Cheers for that.
But yeah, so I started life at Tesco, where I kind of cut my teeth in media, digital, social. I moved from there to Sky, where I spent a year in the sort of social tech world there. And I've been at Kraft Heinz now for 2 years. So my current role is Head of Media Brand Communications. And what that means is I look after basically our approach to paid media, what we communicate there, our approach to earned, and our approach to digital, social and content as well.
And what remit were you given when you took over the role at Kraft Heinz?
Well, it's the first time Heinz had a role that focused on this, to be honest. So I was quite pleased to get quite a broad brief. And what I'm going to talk about today is the internal agency, so I'll focus a bit more on that. But that is something which our international CEO brought with him as an initiative. So he was quite keen that we as a business were set up to bring creativity to market as quickly as possible. And he felt the best way to do that was to bring those creative minds in-house. So we started the kitchen with the mantra of creativity at the speed of culture. It's something we have on the wall in the kitchen team area. And that's what the journey started, really. So we started with a single social media manager about 2 years ago. We quite quickly saw the benefit of that. So the first campaign with which we saw some real benefit was Wheater Beans, which you may or may not remember from the joys of lockdown, baked beans and Weetabix paired together. We built that in partnership with Weetabix, but that was the first time we saw the benefit of having somebody who sat with the brand team who was able to react to that conversation and grow that conversation and really make it bigger.
That went viral, didn't it?
It did, yeah. It was
everywhere on LinkedIn. Yeah. It's brilliant. Just tell me a bit more about what The Kitchen is specifically and its purpose and role within the organisation.
Sure. So the kitchen team we bill as our internal digital and social agency. Fundamentally, it's got 3 areas of focus. So the first of that is paid digital. So the kitchen partners with all our wonderful external creative partners to build creative, which is digital first, which is social first, and which is culture first, really. Built out of what we believe will really work in the social and digital space. That's the first thing. The second thing is our guardians and gatekeepers to the social space. So anything that goes out in social is produced by the kitchen in an always-on sense, in a reactive sense, in a social-first campaign sense. And the kitchen team is also responsible for working with our internal e-com team to produce all the content that goes live on our retail partner sites. And as retail media becomes an increasingly important part of our media mix, that's increasingly important for the team.
Yeah, and when this idea was created and brought to you, what were the business benefits expected from this, and have those business benefits been realised?
So there were 4 pillars, I suppose, which the kitchen's built upon. The first of which is agility. So the primary focus of the kitchen is to bring things to market quick. First of all, to identify opportunities quickly, to produce things quickly. So as part of the kitchen team set up, we've got creatives and production teams in-house that can make things, in hours. And also to get things out quickly. And the benefit of the setup that we currently have is that the creative who's thought of the idea sits next to the brand manager, can get input from the brand manager, over a single conversation, can then walk around the corner to speak to the legal team to get sign-off on it. So what can typically take, hours or days to build something and get sign-off can happen, we think, quite quickly within the setup that we have. The second focus is creativity. So, of course, we want to have people in-house who can think of ideas, bring great creativity to the market. But what we've seen as a real benefit there is bringing creativity to the heart of the organisation. I think typically, as marketeers, we outsource a lot of the creative thinking. Of course, there's always going to be a role for that. But brand managers have great ideas, right? They understand the brand better than anybody. So having a setup in which we can have a two-way conversation between the brand marketeers and the kitchen allows us to unlock a new dimension of creativity, we think. The third benefit is business closeness. So we always talk about a kind of Venn diagram, I suppose, where on the right-hand side you've got the business benefits, the objectives. On the left-hand side you've got what's important in the cultural and social space. We try and operate in the middle of that, right? That's where the good stuff is. And having people in-house means they can thoroughly understand both sides of that Venn diagram to get things out, much more quickly. And the final benefit is, as you'd expect, efficiencies, right? There's time efficiencies to having all the decision makers sitting together, all the creatives sitting together, but also cost efficiencies, as you'd expect. Not that that's a major driver, but it can't be ignored.
Professor, I know there's some famous examples of in-housing maybe not working. I'm not here to talk about specific examples, but has this been quite difficult to get right?
Well, I mean, it has been a journey, for sure. And I think what's been my biggest learning is not only being clear on what the kitchen team is there to do, but being very clear on what the kitchen team isn't there to do. When we first bought the team internally and sort of unveiled them to the business, as you'd expect, a huge amount of excitement.
Yeah.
And what we found is that there was an inundation of requests for the kitchen team to start to do things that they weren't or planned for or scoped to do, which is brilliant, right? Because the business is excited about it. But what that then meant is that we started to dilute the impact of the output of the kitchen team. So we had to reset a little bit, regain the focus on what the kitchen team are there to do, which is deliver creativity at the speed of culture, and not necessarily to do key visuals for shopper, to do internal comms, to do all that kind of things. So I think being clear on what they are there to do, as well as what they're not there to do, was one of our most important learnings.
And how do you create that environment and nature of an agency on the client side within a brand? Is that challenging?
It has been in some ways, yeah. But what we try to do is, first of all, remain really focused on what it is that the kitchen team is there to do. And that's fundamentally deliver good creativity. So the way that we kind of set that as a North Star, one of the ways that we set that in the North Star is we've got a great initiative internally called the ACE Awards. And that's a global celebration of creativity where the respective kitchen teams from around the globe submit work, the different agency partners submit work, and that's a moment in time in which we can all celebrate the creative work that comes out of Kraft Heinz. Right. We see creativity as a genuine differentiator and a real driver of growth in the business. So having that as a North Star and something to build the culture around, first-class creativity, I think is the first thing we've tried to build. The second thing we tried to do is build a space internally for the team where they can be creative. It can be sometimes jarring to, bring creative thinking into a traditional corporate environment. So what we've tried to do is to build a space in which the kitchen team can remain close to the business, but also have a space in which creative thinking can thrive. So what we've done is built a studio space in the office, and that's where the kitchen team base themselves for their brainstorming, for a lot of the thinking. But there's also a space where we can turn around work quite quickly. So we've got the equipment we need in there to shoot stuff, to video things, and bring ideas to life. So what that means is we've got a cultural space for them to kind of, bounce ideas off each other, but also a space in which we can actually bring those ideas to life quite quickly. And I think the final thing I'll say is trust has been a really important part of building that culture. It's all very well saying that we've got the right creative minds internally to bring this stuff to life, which we do. But if you don't trust those minds to sort of do things on behalf of the business, you'll never really unlock their benefit and sort of build that culture around it. So that's what we try to focus on.
Okay, great. And I'm going to come to you for a question or two in a second, so get your thinking caps on. Could you just share a couple of examples, maybe? Obviously, we know about the famous Weetabix beans example, who could forget? But could you share a couple of examples of things? I know you did the Christmas dinner. That was quite popular again. There's quite a few of these things going viral, right?
Yeah. So the tick boxes I suppose we have for great creative thinking within the kitchens. First of all, is it based in a true insight? Second of all, is it going to get people talking about the brand in a positive way? So the example that you just talked about there, Christmas dinner soup, was a campaign we did, the Christmas Just Gone, and the objective around that was to reinvigorate love for our chunky soup. And the way that we did that was to create a chunky soup that was a Christmas dinner variety. So getting Christmas dinner in a tin. And it really got the nation talking. First of all about, the merits of making Christmas dinner more accessible, but also, more importantly for us, about our big soup, which was declining in market share and for the first time ever was the centre of a big conversation. So I think that's an example of a piece of work that we're really proud of. Another one more recently is Ask for Henry. So it's a brilliant initiative in which we have partnered with Morrison's to make available for anybody who needs a free meal during the cost of living crisis, available to them. So we've launched that for the first time last year. We've launched it again the week just gone, and that's a piece of work which the kitchen team partnered with our PR agency Wonderland on to bring to life and to get people, talking about the brand in a positive way, whilst of course providing support for those who need it.
Right, great. And has anybody had their thinking caps? Oh yeah, we have Luke O'Connell, Head of Data and Martech at Danone. I think a mic's coming over to you.
Yeah, it's just a quick question about insourcing, because I think it's a hot topic at the moment. So have you thought about expanding the kitchen to other areas of the business and starting to build more internal digital competency? So where do you see the line? Where do you see kind of this is something an agency should squarely be doing versus this is something we could be doing and have that proximity to our brands?
It's a really good question. So what we've tried to do for the time being, I suppose, is to keep focus on the core benefit we want to see from the kitchen, which is that creativity at the speed of culture. I mean, for sure, there would be benefits in bringing other elements into that, buying media in a more of an agile way, creating audiences in more of an agile way, analysing performances in more of an agile way. I expect we'll get to that at some point. We want to make sure that we've accomplished what we set out to accomplish first to the best of our ability before we move the focus onto that space.
Really clear. Thanks, Alex.
So another question here from Brian Scott.
Thank you. Hi, Brian from Ozone. Is there anything that you think you're missing from, I guess, a traditional agency-client relationship that you maybe don't have having in-house those requirements?
Yeah, again, a really good question. So I think one thing to make really clear is that we didn't create the kitchen as a replacement to external agency partners. We've got loads of brilliant external agency partners that we wouldn't be without. And I think there's always going to be an important part for external thinking as part of our sort of communications mix. But what the kitchen brings is a brilliant complement to that, because they understand the business in a way that our agency partners can't, because they're not sitting in it day to day, but also being able to turn around complementary ideas to what the big agency partners think of in a way that's super quick and super agile. So we see it very much as complementary as opposed to oppositionary, I suppose.
And I think I saw a hand up over here somewhere.
The last two questions and the answers have kind of answered the question I was going to ask.
Perfect.
Oh, you anyway, if you like?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Bob Wootton. I used to be in advertising. I was just going to ask you, your title suggests that you are responsible for those external interfaces as well as the internal ones.
Yes.
And assuming that assumption's correct, then I was going to ask you how you manage those, because clearly you're not the only advertiser client who is in part-time competition with their outside partners, suppliers, but you seem to be pressing the point a little further. So I was going to ask you that question, but you've sort of half answered it. Just give you an opportunity to say anything more about that side.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Well, I think our external partners are an important part of making our internal creativity even stronger, because what we don't want to do is become complacent and I suppose lose sight of or become too internally focused on what good creativity is. So the fact that we've got external partners in the mix make sure that we continue to raise the bar for what we expect from the internal team. So first of all, they work together in a complementary way, but I think also our external partners help ensure that we are continuing to raise the bar for what creativity we want to see from our internal team as well. So they're complementary in a couple of ways, I think.
Brilliant. Have we got time for one more question?
Hi, Chris Ladd, Head of Media at Nationwide. 2 questions. One is Heinz tomato ketchup, fridge or cupboard? And perhaps the less serious one is, how do you develop the talent of those people? So you said you have a social media manager in the team. How do they career develop within Heinz?
So to answer your first question, the party line is keep refrigerated for up to 8 weeks after opening. To answer your second question, so I think we're quite fortunate in the respect that the social media space is always evolving, right? So when we first started this, TikTok wasn't really a thing. Now TikTok is a massive thing. So the fact that that landscape continues to evolve means there's continually new challenges for our team to get their teeth stuck into. So it's never a case that the team feel like they're not learning new things or exploring new territories. So we try and benefit from that as far as possible. We've also been quite fortunate that we've seen the benefits of this model quite quickly. So the team's grown from a team of 1 to now a team of 8. So there's been new opportunities for the team to sort of evolve and move into, is bring new talent into the mix as well.
Brilliant. Thanks so much to Alex Wade for coming to join us today at Future of Brands.
Great. Thank you very much.
I'd now like to